Grace and peace to you, siblings. My name is Tim Schroeder, and I serve as pastor at Peace Lutheran Church in Coon Rapids, Minnesota, which is a northwest metro of Minneapolis. I'd like to begin my time with you with a word of prayer. The Lord be with you. Good and gracious God, I give you thanks for this virtual gathering of men across this country and throughout the internet. May you bless my words so that the stories from my heart may stir up questions and connections for other men who are listening today. May we feel assured of your unconditional love for us. May we be called to share your love with everyone that we meet. In the name of Christ, amen. I'd like to begin my story in the beginning. No, not in the beginning of Genesis, but my beginning. Being born the youngest of 9 children in 1988, I grew up in a small town in northern Wisconsin. My faith journey began then. My family was pretty religious, attending church every Sunday, going to Sunday school, youth group, and volunteering every time there was an opportunity on the schedule. I caught the faith at home, watching my parents teach us the Johnny Appleseed prayer around the dinner table, and showing up when there was ever a need in the community. I had many male mentors in my life from a very early age. My dad teaching me the Lord's Prayer and showing me that men can sing loudly in church, and it was okay to shed a few tears when Pastor Story tugged at the heartstrings. My dad wasn't my only mentor at church. I had extra church parents who made sure I was seen. My confirmation small group leader, Paul, who always made a point to ask me how my day was going and if I ever needed a ride home after church. I had Bill and Lonnie, who were active in our church choir and men's ministry, and they spent time making me feel included in the church plays and made sure I had a fun job while we served the church meals. These relationships, however informal as they were, really allowed me to grow in my faith as a young person and teach me that love is greater than blood relation, but that as you form Christian community, you're welcomed into a larger family of God in which there is unconditional acceptance and relationship. As I left for college as an 18-year-old young man, I was yearning for a new Christian community to get connected to. Luckily, at my freshman orientation, I ran into a guy named Kurt Larson, who was just starting on staff as a Lutheran Campus Pastor at my university. There, Kurt welcomed me to join the ministry and dedicate my 4 years of my undergrad to help build up the ministry and put my Christian faith into action. Kurt has definitely been one of the most influential people in my life. He's been a trusted friend as I was journeying through college, as I struggled with relationships, sometimes giving me wise advice such as, don't break up with your girlfriend while you're on a week-long spring break service trip together. Kurt was always there for me. When I came out as a gay man, he assured me of God's love for me and his unwavering support that the ministry would provide for me. Kurt was one of the first people to recognize my call to serve God and the church, and made opportunities in which I could practice and experiment with my gifts for the ministry. Kurt was not only the linchpin in my discernment, but he also served as my bridge builder to the wider Lutheran Men mission community. Through meeting his dad, Doug Larson, and other Lutheran men in my college town, I soon found myself in a van traveling to Omaha, Nebraska, the summer of 2008, for my first Lutheran Men mission gathering. It has been through Lutheran Men mission that I've been blessed with dozens of amazing relationships with other men, guys from my first 1 year to live retreat in Wisconsin, Lon, Kevin, Coop, and Kyle. These relationships have grown over the years, in which I've been challenged to help lead one-year to live retreats throughout Wisconsin and Minnesota. What Lutheran Men in Mission taught me is that connecting with men is an important ministry for the church, essential for the spiritual growth of men, to always have a band of brothers that we can turn to when life throws us challenges, and to have a group of guys there waiting to cheer you on when you have successes. One of my greatest joys these last 13 years was helping lead a young men's ministry at my university. We could have anywhere from 8 to 15 guys under the age of 25 gathering for Bible study, doing community service projects together, and leading spring break trips across the country. It was through these meetings that we got to wrestle with the tough questions of young, growing men: how to lead healthy relationships, how to manage our finances, how to ask big questions about our faith, God, and the church. What I know is that my personal growth throughout my 20s was attributed heavily by Lutheran Men in Mission and men's ministry in my daily life. After leaving my job in campus ministry in 2014, I headed off to Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, to study my Master of Divinity degree to become a Lutheran pastor. As I made the transition, I took a step back from my leadership roles in Lutheran Men in Mission to find myself creating a new young men's ministry through Lutheran Campus Ministry at the University of Minnesota. These years continued to affirm my call to work with young adults and to journey with Christians as they discover their vocation and ask where God is calling them to be. As a seminarian, I was pushed and pulled in various directions as I continued to hone my theology, learn about church history, and study ancient Greek and Hebrew. But what I learned most in my years of study was that beyond just the historical facts, I learned how to be a minister. I learned that it is a privilege to serve as someone's pastor, and that there is a gift in hearing people's stories. It is through listening to people's stories that I learned to love people for who they are, knowing that you never know the full story. You never know what anyone has dealt with in the past or what they might be carrying with them in the present. But it is through listening that we get to honor their story, celebrate their accomplishments, and encourage their next steps. Now, the world has thrown me challenges over the years. I can't share my story without also sharing the hardships that have come along the journey. With having such a large family, it seems that there is always one family member who is navigating a crisis. May it be a health challenge, an addiction, or a personal issue. The challenge of supporting a close family member through a crisis has been financial need or navigating mental health diagnoses and advocating for their character in front of judges, law enforcement, or other judicatories. I think my biggest challenge these last 5 years has been losing my mom in 2016. I was still in seminary, serving my internship in Berlin, Germany, when I heard that my mom had passed away from congestive heart failure. We knew she had been sick for about a year, but it was unexpected nonetheless. What was challenging the most about losing my mom while I was overseas was the fact that I was so far away from my closest friends and family. I navigated that first year of grief through virtual connection to my seminary community and my closest friends and family. It was through my close relationships that sustained me day in and day out. I also had an amazing congregation in Berlin that came around me and offered me emotional support through the first few weeks before I could return home for the funeral. This is what church is all about. Even as an intern pastor, I received love and support from my church community. They helped provide a space for me to celebrate stories of my mom and for me to share my sadness. At the funeral, I was surrounded by friends from every part of my life, my childhood, my college friends in campus ministry, and my seminary friends and community. God is so good. We are reminded that our time on earth is limited and that the next chapter is going to be way better in heaven than on earth, giving me peace to know that we will be reunited with all our saints who have gone before us. Now, as I look to see where God has been active in my life, everywhere I turn, I see God's work. These days, I'm pouring my time into my church ministry, serving the saints of Peace Lutheran. I also volunteer my time on the board of directors for Lutheran Campus Ministry at the U of M and a local nonprofit called the Lift Garage, where they offer affordable car repair for low-income families. I've been investing in my learning around diversity, equity, and inclusion to be a better advocate, ally, and supporter of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. These last few years, Minneapolis and St. Paul have been exposed for their police brutality, and I've been standing in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and other social agencies working for more justice and equity in our communities. As I was preparing my remarks for you today, I asked God where I was being called to live my bold, daring faith. And what I discerned was that I'm being called to live my authentic life, knowing that I'm 100% loved for who I am. And I am then in turn called to love everyone that I meet, knowing their stories are rich, challenging, and beloved. God has created each of us, uniquely made. We have been blessed with gifts to serve our neighbor. That might be through swinging a hammer and mending a stranger's fence. It might be buying a meal for a traveler, holding a sign on a street corner. Or it might be mentoring a young man in your congregation that needs to know that they are seen and they are welcome. At my first one-year to live retreat, over 10 years ago, I created a personal mission statement that was something like this. My name is Tim Schroeder, child of God. I am a son, a brother, a favorite uncle, and a godfather. I have God-given talents to work with young people and the youth, provide guidance to youth on their spiritual journeys, and be a communicator between the generation gaps of the church. I'm called to encourage intergenerational discipleship to ensure our young people are equipped with the wisdom of our elders. Friends, this is my hope for you and for our church, that God taps you on your shoulder and asks you to find someone to invest yourselves in. For those young adults listening, that might be connecting with an older mentor or a fellow peer. I believe that God is calling each and every one of us to boldly live out our faith, and that begins with relationships and community. I could never imagine myself today without the dozens of Christian men that I've gotten to journey with over my 32 years of life. I give thanks for you, I give thanks to God, and I give thanks to Lutheran Men in Mission. Blessings to you as you continue to follow Christ and journey with one another.